I, 35 male, used to think my life was perfectly on track. About 8 years ago, I was happily engaged to my ex-fiance, Lauren, 33 female. Lauren was the kind of person you imagine spending forever with. Smart, ambitious, charming, and drop-dead gorgeous. Everyone in my life adored her. My parents practically treated her like their own daughter, and my friends would always say how lucky I was to have found her. To be honest, I agreed with them. I thought I had hit the relationship jackpot. Lauren and I had been together for 3 years when I proposed. The engagement was like a fairy tale. Romantic dinners, endless congratulations from everyone we knew, and plans for a wedding that felt like it would be the best day of our lives. But as the saying goes, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. About 6 months before the wedding, my seemingly perfect life crumbled. A mutual friend of ours, Sarah, approached me one evening, looking incredibly uncomfortable. She said she didn't want to get involved, but thought I deserved to know something. Sarah told me she had seen Lauren at a restaurant with another man, her coworker, Ryan. She said their behavior was far from platonic. They were holding hands, laughing intimately, and even kissed at one point. At first, I didn't want to believe it. Lauren had always been so loving and attentive. I couldn't imagine her being unfaithful. But the seed of doubt was planted. Over the next week, I started noticing things I had previously ignored. Late nights at work with a sudden obsession with her phone. Finally, I confronted her. To my shock and heartbreak, Lauren didn't even try to deny it. She admitted she had been seeing Ryan for months and said she didn't know how to tell me. What floored me the most was her justification. She claimed she still loves me, but she can't resist the passion she feels for Ryan, and that he made her feel alive again. Hearing that from the woman I was planning to marry was like being punched in the gut. I ended the engagement on the spot, packed up her things, and asked her to leave. The days and weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. My parents were devastated, mainly because they adored Lauren. Even though they were upset on my behalf, I always felt like they secretly wished I would forgive her. After the breakup, Lauren moved to another state with Ryan. I cut all ties with her, deleted her number, and blocked her on every platform. As far as I was concerned, she no longer existed. It was hard, but eventually I began to heal. Fast forward a few years, I met my now wife, Emily, 32 female. Emily was everything I needed after Lauren, kind, supportive, and honest to a fault. She wasn't as flashy or outgoing as Lauren, but she had a warmth and sincerity that I quickly fell in love with. My parents, however, weren't as smitten. They thought Emily was nice, but they clearly didn't think she compared to Lauren. My mom even made a few passive-aggressive comments during the early days of our relationship, like, "Emily's lovely, but she doesn't have that same spark Lauren had." I ignored it because I wasn't marrying Emily for my parents. I was marrying her for me. Emily and I tied the knot 3 years ago. While our marriage has been solid, we've struggled with infertility, which has been a sore spot. We've seen doctors, explored treatments, and even considered adoption, but it's been an emotional roller coaster. Despite the challenges, Emily has been my rock, and I wouldn't trade her for anyone. Now to the current situation. Last week, my parents invited me over for lunch. They said they had exciting news to share, and I figured it was something harmless, like a vacation or a new hobby. When I arrived, I was stunned to see Lauren sitting in their living room, holding a newborn baby. My jaw practically hit the floor. I hadn't seen or heard from Lauren in years, so to say this was unexpected would be an understatement. I sat down, trying to make sense of the situation. My parents were beaming, clearly thrilled to have Lauren there. Lauren gave me a small, almost sheepish smile, but didn't say much at first. She cradled her baby and avoided eye contact. But as my parents started their spiel, she chimed in with comments like, "I know I made mistakes, but I've grown so much since then, and I really regret how things ended between us." Her tone was calm, almost rehearsed, like she had been coached on what to say. Then came the bombshell. They announced that Lauren's husband, Ryan, yes, that Ryan, had recently passed away. He died unexpectedly, leaving Lauren a single mother to their newborn son. My parents explained that they had reconnected with her through mutual friends and had been helping her adjust to her new life. Then they dropped the real shocker. They wanted me to consider taking Lauren back. I thought they were joking. I genuinely laughed out loud and said, "You can't be serious." But they were. Dead serious. My mom said Lauren had made a mistake all those years ago, but was truly sorry and deserved a second chance. She went on to say that Emily was never a good match for me, and Lauren had been perfect in every way. They said this was fate's way of giving me a chance to make things right. I was furious. I told them there was absolutely no way I would ever consider taking Lauren back. I reminded them that I'm a married man and that I love my wife deeply. I asked them why they thought I would forgive Lauren's betrayal, let alone raise her child, a child that isn't even mine. Their response? Because Lauren is your true soulmate, and Emily can't even give you children. That was the final straw. I told them their behavior was disgusting and disrespectful, and just not to me, but to my wife. I got up and left without another word. Since then, my phone has been blowing up. My parents have been calling and texting nonstop, accusing me of being heartless and unwilling to forgive and forget. My mom even said I was being cruel to Lauren, who is a widow just trying to do what's best for her baby. I blocked their numbers temporarily because I couldn't take the barrage of messages. When I got home, I told Emily everything. She was furious and deeply hurt that my parents would say such horrible things about her. She's now insisting that I go no contact with them, and honestly, I don't blame her. Their blatant disrespect for my marriage and their attempt to manipulate me into taking back a woman who broke my heart is beyond unacceptable. The thing is, I feel torn. My parents have always been important to me, and the idea of cutting them out feels extreme. But at the same time, their actions have left me feeling betrayed and furious. I can't shake the anger and disbelief that they would prioritize Lauren, a woman who destroyed me, over my wife and my happiness. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take back my cheating ex-fiancé and considering going no contact with my parents? OP's parents' behavior is beyond disgusting. They've crossed every boundary imaginable, and their blatant disrespect for OP's wife is unforgivable. Lauren had her chance with OP, and she threw it away for Ryan. The fact that she's now trying to worm her way back into OP's life, using OP's parents as her pawns, no less, is manipulative and cruel. OP has built a life with Emily, and OP's loyalty to her speaks volumes about the man OP is. If OP's parents can't respect that, going no contact might be OP's only option. And now let's hear the community's opinion. OP, your parents are completely out of line. The audacity to not only bring Lauren back into your life uninvited, but also suggest you take her back while disrespecting your wife is outrageous. Lauren saying she's grown and acting like she's the victim here is laughable. She made her choices, and they had consequences. You're not the a-hole for refusing to entertain their absurd request. And frankly, your wife's suggestion to go no contact sounds like the healthiest thing you can do right now. Not the a-hole, but wow, your parents sure are. They're so fixated on this fantasy of you and Lauren being some perfect match that they're willing to destroy your actual marriage to make it happen. Lauren cheated on you, lied to you, and chose someone else. Now that her life didn't turn out the way she wanted, she thinks she can just waltz back in? Absolutely not. Your loyalty to your wife is admirable, and I think cutting off your parents, even temporarily, might be necessary to protect your marriage. First off, not the a-hole. Your parents have some nerve. Suggesting you leave your loving wife for someone who betrayed you is mind-boggling. Lauren is only back because her grass is greener fantasy blew up in her face. And the fact that she and your parents are using Emily's infertility as some kind of excuse to justify this nonsense is despicable. Your wife deserves your loyalty, and it sounds like you've been a fantastic husband. Stick to your guns and protect the life you've built with Emily. Your parents and Lauren need a serious reality check. Update. After a few days of processing everything, I decided to confront my parents in person. I hope that a serious conversation might make them realize the extent of the hurt they'd caused and help mend the growing rift between us. My intention was clear, to let them know that if they wanted me and Emily in their lives, they needed to apologize to both of us, respect my marriage, and let go of their obsession with Lauren entirely. When I arrived at their house, I was prepared for a tense conversation, but nothing could have prepared me for what I found. Lauren was there. She was sitting in their living room with her baby, completely at ease, as though she had become a permanent fixture in their home. It turned out that my parents had invited Lauren to live with them. They had offered her their spare bedroom and were providing her with emotional and financial support. They claimed they were simply helping her out during a difficult time. The betrayal I felt at that moment was overwhelming. It was as if all the pain Lauren had caused me in the past was being amplified by the actions of the people who were supposed to be my support system. My parents' decision to bring Lauren into their home was more than I could handle. It wasn't just about Lauren's presence. It was the symbolic weight of their choice. By taking her in, they had essentially declared where their loyalties lay, and it wasn't with me or my wife. I tried to keep my composure, but the realization hit me hard. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a momentary lapse in judgment. My parents had made a deliberate choice, one that prioritized Lauren, the woman who had betrayed and humiliated me, over their own son. I left their house immediately, cutting the visit short. There was no point in continuing the conversation. Their actions spoke louder than any apology or justification ever could. They had chosen Lauren, and I had no intention of remaining in a relationship where my marriage and happiness were so blatantly disrespected. When I got home, I told Emily everything. She wasn't surprised, but it still hurt her deeply to see how little my parents valued our relationship. As difficult as it was to admit, the decision to cut ties with them felt like the only viable path forward. The pain of severing ties with my parents is immense. These are people who have been part of my life for as long as I can remember, and letting go of that connection feels like mourning a loss. But their actions have shown me time and again that they're unwilling to support me in the way I need. So, in my early 20s, I got into business with a man, Eric, who stole all my money and left me with debt. I sued and lost because I was an idiot who blindly trusted this man and didn't do things correctly to protect my rights. He was also a smart man who probably made his living by stealing from people. I went to therapy, paid the debts, and learned from that lesson. 30 years later, I found out that my daughter's fiance, Jake, who she's been with for 4 years, is the son of that ducking thief. I liked Jake, and he always seemed like a great man. I know this sounds stupid, which clearly I am at times, but despite knowing Jake's last name and his father's first name, it went over my head that Jake's father has the same name as that piece of crap criminal. His first and last name is so common that I never connected the dots, I guess. That is, until I was at my daughter's apartment with Jake and his mother. I saw Jake's father's name written on one of the wedding invitations, and as soon as I saw the full name written on paper, it clicked. I was shocked and terrified, so I excused myself and went back home to do some internet stalking to make sure this is the same guy. It was. I was so angry and confused that I went back to my daughter's apartment and basically told them that Jake's father stole my money and ruined my life. I probably seemed like a lunatic trying to explain this to all of them. It's been 2 weeks since I found out. Jake believes I was lying about his father stealing from me because I lost the case. My daughter is clearly confused, and she says she believes me but refuses to postpone the wedding after all this was uncovered. Jake's mom, who divorced Eric years ago, is accusing me of waiting until this moment to reveal this information because I want to sabotage the wedding and back out of helping to pay for the wedding after promising to do so. I feel so conflicted. I'm angry that this piece of crap somehow barged into my life again. I don't trust Jack because I have no idea how much he truly knows about his father. He was raised by his father most of his childhood. I'm worried about my daughter, and I feel so stupid for not realizing this when Jake talked to me about his family, which was probably a year ago when they got engaged. I feel sick to my stomach, and I've been begging my daughter to reconsider and just take more time to think before marrying Jake. Everyone around me except my sister, who saw firsthand what this guy did to me, thinks I'm an a-hole for burdening my daughter and Jake with this information, and for trying to convince my daughter to at least postpone the wedding. Am I the a-hole by wanting my daughter to rethink her relationship because of all this? Not the a-hole. Apples sometimes don't fall far from the tree. I would definitely want to know if I was marrying into a family that has a thief. Is your daughter getting a prenup? What a weird coincidence. I do think you should probably try to be less emotional about it when talking with your daughter. Poor thing. That's a scary thing to find out about your fiance's family at the 11th hour. But honestly, if anyone had done something like that to my mom, I would have some serious second thoughts about marrying his son. This is a difficult one. I would say you are not the a-hole in the sense that you are clearly dealing with some trauma surrounding your history with your future sister-in-law's father. That is understandable. You are allowed to have all of your feelings, and that's okay. However, I believe you are kind of the a-hole for projecting what was your view of this man who hurt you onto his son, who you stated that you had no problems with prior to finding out who his father was. My father is a raging alcoholic, and I don't even have a beer a year. Your DNA doesn't determine who you are as a person, so try your best to separate your views of those two people. Yes, the a-hole. I get it. I get it. It hurts and you feel blindsided and tricked and confused and icky. You've had an emotional reaction. But this emotional reaction is not fair to your daughter, and neither is your request to postpone the wedding. To at least postpone the wedding, which reads like you'll keep trying to convince her to cancel it. Your daughter is engaged to Jake, not Eric. Limit your exposure to Eric and let your daughter live her life. My, 15 female, parents are divorced. As far as I know, there was no cheating and there was no aggression. They just fell out of love, which kind of sucked to witness. My dad remarried earlier this year, so this is my first Christmas with his new wife and her kids, 9 female and 14 male. They're fine as people. I'm not really interested in acting like a real family with them. I'll be polite and do stuff with them, but I'm not just their sister and they're not my siblings, which is fine. My stepmom is okay. She's not the evil stepmom you always hear about, but you can tell she doesn't love having me around. I can tell she hates my mom. My dad is middle to lower middle class. My mom, my maternal grandparents, are upper middle class. My dad basically downgraded his lifestyle by a lot since they had a prenup. You can tell that he hasn't adjusted to it at all. My stepmom probably didn't expect his personal finance situation to be like this. They fight about it a lot. Anyways, I get $100 a week from my mom as allowance. I normally use it to eat out with friends, or I just save it. I know it's a lot for a 15-year-old. For Christmas, I'm getting a $900 bracelet, although I'll be paying for half of it with my allowance, even though it's just all my mom's money anyways. My dad isn't getting me anything. I'm spending Christmas at my mom's house, so I sent my dad's family's gift early. I gave my dad and stepmom one of those Costco snack baskets, which cost $60. I wasn't exactly sure what to get my step-siblings, since I don't know them well, so I got my stepbrother a $40 Steam gift card and a $35 name necklace for my stepsister. My step-siblings seemed pretty happy, which was nice to see. My dad, on the other hand, knows that all of this was less than 2 weeks' allowance for me, and that I have another $6,000 saved that I could have used. He also knows that I spent a lot more on my friends, with my best friend getting a gift that cost $200. He told me that the divorce cost him a lot, so he couldn't buy the kids or my stepmom nice gifts this year. So he hoped I could step up and give them nicer or more gifts to help him out. He thinks I'm being privileged and that I have more than enough money to share, which is true. But honestly, as I told him, even if their divorce was amicable, it feels unsettling to spend my mom's money on his new family, including his new wife who doesn't like my mom. He pointed out the extreme differences in my Christmas with my step-siblings and said that I should be more generous and giving. Not the a-hole. So he basically still wants the benefits of your mother's money. And he didn't even get you a present. He's really wrong for that. It's yours and your mother's money. Don't let him get to your head. If he can't afford it, then maybe he shouldn't even be mentioning anything. He wishes he could give nice gifts this Christmas and is trying to guilt you into doing it in his stead. I think you chose nice and appropriate gifts. There will always be people who have more and have less than you, but you are not obliged to try to make up the imbalance. Good for you saving $6,000. Not the a-hole. So he's not getting you anything but still expects you to buy nice gifts for his new wife and stepkids? Maybe for Christmas you should get him a big bag to carry all his audacity. You're right. It's unsettling that he still feels entitled to your mom's money. What's even worse is that he's just fine with trying to manipulate you, his own child, to get to spend some of it. Buy your mom something meaningful for Christmas. She deserves a nice gift after all those years she had to deal with him. My parents divorced when I was 5 and have since both remarried. My parents share 2 kids between them, me, 25, and my bio sister, 27. On my mom's side, I have 2 step-siblings, Jenny, 27, and Sam, 29. And on my dad's side, I have Ellie, 26, Liam, 28, and George, 31. I've known both sets of step-siblings for almost the same amount of time, 15 plus years, but I'm a lot closer to my dad's side despite living with my mom most of the time. Both sets of step-siblings lived with their respective bio parent, as either their other parent had passed or they had walked out on them. Growing up with Sam and Jenny was not fun. They would constantly get whatever they wanted, and my mom would hardly discipline them because they would always pull the dead mom sympathy card to get their way. When my sister was 14, my mom ended up kicking her out after a nasty fight between her and Jenny and forcing her to live with my dad. She probably would have sent me to live with him too, but she enjoyed the child support too much. Once my sister was gone, Jenny started picking on me with a vengeance. While Sam never directly picked on me, he would cover up for his sister whenever I told our parents and claim I was lying. I would literally beg my dad to let me live with him, and eventually, when I was 15, he got the custody agreement amended and I moved in with him. Living with my other step-siblings was fantastic. They were really nice and treated me like I was their biological sibling. We got along really well, and they did a lot to help me feel comfortable when I first moved to my dad's. We're all still really close and meet up independently of our parents, whereas I only see Sam and Jenny when I visit my mom's. Last year, me and my boyfriend got engaged. His family threw us an engagement party at a pretty nice venue as they have a large social, business circle who they wanted to announce our engagement to. When planning the party, my fiance's sister asked me who I wanted to invite, so I gave her a list which included my step-siblings on my dad's side, and not my mom's. When my mom got to the party and saw my dad's whole family there, and how big the party was, she and my stepdad were pissed. They'd assumed it was only a small gathering, which is why I hadn't invited my step-siblings. They ignored me for months after, and only started talking to me again when the virus got bad. Jenny sent me a text calling me a nasty curse word, and Sam sent me a message about how he'd always considered me his sister, and never knew I didn't feel the same way. I probably could have invited Sam at least, but the last time he met my fiance, he was trying to pitch his business ideas to him, and I thought it would be embarrassing if he tried the same at my engagement party, where all of my father-in-law's business associates and clients were. I don't feel bad about not inviting Jenny. Was I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You can invite or not invite whoever you want. Sam's comment is a little strange, and I have to wonder if maybe his sudden need to acknowledge a sibling bond has more to do with the fact that he wants to pitch his business idea to your fiancé. I'm assuming he has money, again, and less about wanting an actual relationship with you. Not the a-hole. You get to decide who you want at your engagement party and your wedding. It's no one else's concern. Sam is weird to think that you would think of him like a sibling when he only sees you with your parents. However, I'd keep in mind that you are going to be dealing with similar problems at your wedding and might want to plan accordingly. Not the a-hole. These people were so horrible to you they literally drove you out of your home. Heck no should you ever have to see them again. Honestly, I think your mom is lucky you still even talk to her. My husband is a professional athlete. We live very, very comfortably without me having a job. My mother-in-law has never liked this. She has worked ever since my husband was very young. Even with her difficult hours, she maintained a relationship with my husband. To this day, he has a very good relationship with her. The thing is, it's not like I haven't thought about getting a job. But since I don't have to, I never have, because I have many other projects that fill my time. My lifelong dream has always been to publish a novel, and I'm working on that. I own a food truck that goes to special events, parties, and weddings. But I donate all the profits to charity, and I schedule its events and sometimes work on the truck. I teach Bible classes, cook and deliver food to older or sick people at church, and other things like that. I like this because I can fill my time while my husband is on the road, but I'm also free to travel with him if I choose, as well as be available to spend time with him during off-season. These are things I wouldn't be free to do if I had a traditional job. Every time I see my mother-in-law, she pressures me to go back to school and finish my degree, and asks me constantly when I'm going to start bringing in money to pay for things like my husband does, as if I'm just living off of him. My husband has talked to her about this before, so now she only does it while he's not around. The other day was his mother's birthday, and I was supposed to go for a girls' day sort of thing with her and my sister-in-law. I was going to go, but he could tell I was uncomfortable about it and asked why. I finally broke down and told him that even after he asked her not to, she still talks to me about getting a job and pulling my weight in the house when he's not around. I told him that it makes me feel like she doesn't value me as a daughter-in-law and that she thinks I'm wasting my time and his money. He got furious and called her. He told her I would not be coming for her birthday because I had been feeling very insecure around her and that she should butt out of our business. He told her that he thought I was doing far more good by what I was doing than I would if I had a job, and that he was happy that I didn't because it meant he got to see more of me. He told her we would not be speaking to her until she apologized to me and promised never again to criticize how I spend my time. I've never, ever seen my husband yell or get mad at his mother, but now they're not even speaking. I'm wondering if I shouldn't have said anything. I gave up on the idea of my mother-in-law approving of me a long time ago, and it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. So I'm wondering if I should have kept it to myself. Not the a-hole. Your husband got mad because he cares about you, And if your mother-in-law didn't want trouble, she would have shut the duck up like she was told to before. You do a lot of good things. Be proud. Not the a-hole. What you do to contribute to family finances is between you and your husband. However, in the back of your mind, keep the options open. Pro careers can end so suddenly, and if it's a bad injury, the post-career medical expenses can add up quickly. A few years ago, Sports Illustrated published an article saying that 78% of professional football players run short of money within 2 years of retiring, and that 60% of pro basketball players are short of money within 5 years of retiring. Unless he has stashed tens of millions away, you could need more someday. Wait, what the duck? You own a business? Would it be any different if you'd kept your business profits and your charity donations came out of your husband's pocket? That is a job, damn it. Not the a-hole. I'm a 27 female, and I'm meant to be marrying my boyfriend, 27 male, of 5 years this fall. He has always been close to his family, who I like, but find a little difficult to be around for extended periods. Example, his dad and mom and I have had minor clashes over things like us going on vacation too often. My boyfriend and I love to travel and save up to have adventures together. They tend to blame me instead of him for some reason. A few days ago, my fiance and I were cooking together at his parents' house. It was quite an elaborate meal with expensive food. We also love to cook, and sometimes niche ingredients are more expensive. His parents walked in and started criticizing us for buying it, then turned to me and called me irresponsible. I told them to mind their own business and left. We both have good jobs, save money, and I own an apartment. My fiance texted me saying it was rude of me to leave. He came home several hours later and said while he disagreed with his parents, he'll side with them and not talk back to keep the peace. I was really shocked by this, as to me, your new family takes priority over your old family, and I need to know my future husband has my back no matter what. I've told him we're putting the wedding planning on hold, which upset him, and he says I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Ask him why keeping the peace with them means ducking up peace with you, and why is he okay with that? Why should you be okay with that? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Until he can stand up to his parents, you were right to pump the brakes. They will continue to interfere until he puts them in their place. If he's not willing to do that, then you need an exit plan. Not the a-hole. His parents are treating you like children and he is content to let them. He can't be a good husband if he's too invested in being a good son. For context, my 27 male parents had what most people would have described as a picture-perfect marriage, at least in the beginning. My father, a hard-working and kind man, met my mother when they were in college. They fell deeply in love and got married shortly after graduation. My dad was the kind of man who believed in family above all else. He worked tirelessly to provide us with a good life and adored my mom. However, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. When I was around 6 years old, my mom had an affair. The affair was short-lived but devastating. My father discovered it when my mom became pregnant with my younger brother, Nick, 21 male. My dad, being the selfless man he was, chose to forgive her and raise Nick as his own. He never treated Nick differently, never said an unkind word about him, and poured the same love and care into raising him as he did with me. He was committed to keeping our family intact, even if it meant swallowing his pride and enduring the whispers of betrayal that lingered in the background. My paternal grandparents, however, were a different story. While they were polite and respectful towards Nick, they never fully accepted him as their grandson. They adored my father and were heartbroken by my mother's betrayal. They saw Nick as a living reminder of the pain their son endured. Still, they never mistreated him. They included him in family gatherings, celebrated his milestones, and gave him gifts on birthdays and holidays. But the emotional distance was always there. It was subtle, the kind of thing you'd notice if you were paying attention. A slight hesitation before a hug, a lack of personal anecdotes shared with him, or an extra second spent fawning over me. After my father passed away unexpectedly when I was 16, the fragile threads holding our family together began to unravel. His death hit my grandparents hard, and they seemed to redirect some of their grief into resentment toward my mom. They kept in touch with me, but drifted apart from Mom and Nick. They were civil, but distant, clearly unable to forgive my mom for the heartache she caused their son. I think deep down, they saw their relationship with her as irreparably damaged. Family gatherings became smaller, and the invitations to my mom and Nick grew infrequent. My mom's attempts to bridge the gap were met with polite but cold responses. Fast forward to my grandfather's passing. He left a sizable inheritance, the family home, some valuable antiques, and a significant amount of money. In his will, he left everything to me, nothing to Nick, and nothing to my mom. While this decision didn't shock me, I was still taken aback by the explicit reasoning laid out in the will. My grandfather wrote that he loved me as his grandson and wanted to ensure that I was taken care of. As for Nick, he stated that while he respected him as a person, he did not consider him his blood and therefore felt no obligation to include him in the inheritance. This decision reignited old wounds. My mom was furious, and Nick was deeply hurt. I tried to explain that it wasn't my decision, but it fell on deaf ears. My mom accused me of being complicit and claimed I had poisoned my grandfather against her and Nick, which couldn't be further from the truth. I had no control over my grandfather's decisions and had no idea what his will contained until it was read. My grandfather was a man of strong opinions and firm decisions, and I knew better than to think I could have influenced him. The real drama started 2 weeks ago. After much consideration, I decided to sell my grandfather's valuable painting collection to ensure I could maintain the family home. I arranged for a professional appraiser to come with me to the house to assess the value of the paintings. When he arrived, I was stunned to find the house ransacked. The paintings, along with several other valuable items, including my grandfather's old pocket watch, my grandmother's wedding ring, and other irreplaceable heirlooms, were gone. It was as if someone had swept through the house with the intent of taking anything of worth. In a state of panic, I immediately called the police. They started an investigation and managed to access footage from public cameras in the area surrounding the house. What they found left me speechless. Clear footage of my mom and Nick breaking into the house, loading their car with the stolen items, and driving away. I was devastated. These were not just material possessions, they were memories, pieces of my family's history. I couldn't believe my own mother and brother would stoop so low. When the police confronted my mom, she admitted to taking the items, but claimed she was taking what was rightfully hers because it's her family house. She argued that the inheritance was unfair and that my grandparents' decision was a slap in the face to her and Nick. She even went so far as to say that I was a traitor for not standing by her and my brother. Her justification that was she had sacrificed so much for our family, and this was her way of reclaiming what she felt was owed to her. She completely disregarded the fact that breaking into my home and stealing from me was not only illegal, but also deeply hurtful. Since then, my mom has been painting me as the villain to anyone who will listen. She claims that I'm heartless for reporting her and my brother to the police, arguing that they were only taking what rightfully belonged to them. She insists that I'm just like my grandfather, who she says favored me while looking down on Nick. According to her, I'm perpetuating the same pattern of favoritism and exclusion that caused so much pain in the first place. This narrative has gained traction among some extended family and mutual friends, leaving me feeling increasingly isolated. Nick, while less vocal, has made his stance clear by cutting off all contact with me. He's also been posting cryptic messages on social media, alluding to betrayal and disloyalty, further fueling the drama. Mutual friends and extended family members have started contacting me, some of them accusing me of being selfish, while others are simply trying to understand my side of the story. The entire ordeal has left me emotionally drained and questioning my own actions. Despite their betrayal, part of me wonders if I should have handled things differently. Could I have avoided involving the police? Should I have just let them take what they wanted to keep the peace? The guilt gnaws at me, even though I know their actions were wrong, but they are still my family. But here's the thing. I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask for my mom to have an affair, for my grandparents to feel the way they did, or for my grandfather to leave his inheritance to me. I tried my best to maintain a relationship with my mom and Nick despite everything. But this betrayal has shattered whatever trust I had left. The sense of entitlement they've shown is staggering, and it's left me questioning whether I've been blind to their true feelings all along. Now, I'm being vilified for calling the police on my own family. People are saying I'm heartless, that I should have let them take the items because family is more important than money. But it's not just about money. It's about the principle, the blatant disrespect, and the sense of entitlement that led them to believe they could rob me and get away with it. The stolen items weren't just things. They were pieces of my family's legacy, and I'll never get some of them back. I'm struggling with guilt and doubt. Did I do the right thing by involving the police? Should I have handled it differently? Reddit. I need your judgment. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my mom and brother after they robbed my house and not sharing my grandfather's inheritance with my mother's affair child? OP's mom and brother sound incredibly entitled. It's not their stuff just because they feel wronged by OP's grandfather's decisions. Breaking into OP's property and stealing family heirlooms is not how you handle things. Also, the hypocrisy of OP's mom calling OP a traitor while she literally broke the law is staggering. OP did the right thing by involving the police. Family or not, actions have consequences. And now let's hear the community's opinion. This whole situation is heartbreaking, but let's be clear. Your mom and Nick were in the wrong. Your grandfather's will might have been harsh, but it was his decision to make, and blaming you for it is ridiculous. They crossed a line by breaking into your house and stealing. It's especially ironic that your mom is accusing you of favoritism when she's the one creating this divide. Stay strong. You're not the villain here. I feel for Nick, but your mom's behavior is unacceptable. Your father did everything to protect this family after her affair, and now she's turned everything into a drama about inheritance. She's playing the victim while ignoring how deeply hurtful and illegal her actions are. You're absolutely not the a-hole, and I hope the police intervention helps set some boundaries, because it sounds like she's been crossing them for years. I can't believe your mom had the audacity to call you a traitor when she's the one who betrayed your father all those years ago. The fact that she's dragging Nick into this and enabling this toxic behavior is so unfair to everyone involved. You're not at fault for enforcing boundaries and protecting what was legally left to you. They need to take responsibility for their actions instead of blaming you for everything. I have a daughter, Louisa, 10, and my brother Charlie has a daughter, Sophie, 11, same school year. The girls have always been close, even though we moved abroad 3 years ago, so we have had Sophie come to stay with us during school holidays very often, and the girls keep in touch over social media. Some context to this is that my brother and I come from a middle-class family. Both of us attended private schools, regular abroad holidays as children, expensive hobbies, etc. Charlie's wife Rebecca does not come from a similar background, and this has caused some awkward moments in the past. Nothing malicious, just faux pas. Charlie also chose a career path which has meant that he has not been able to maintain the standard of living we grew up with, or provide that for Sophie. This has been a point of contention between him and his parents. Next September, Louisa will be going to boarding school. Before I get bashed in the comments, this was entirely her idea, not something we wanted for her, but it is where most of her friends from her junior school will be going, and they do not allow day pupils. The school is 1 hour from where we live, and Louisa will be able to come home on weekends. I gathered that Louisa and Sophie spoke about the idea of going to school together and got very excited. I told Louisa this is something that Charlie and Rebecca would have to decide, and then spoke to Charlie about it. I said that if it was something he wanted for Sophie, me and my husband could pay for Sophie to go and be her point of contact during term time. Charlie was almost in tears thanking me and said this is something he and Rebecca could only dream of for Sophie. Over the next couple of days, I spoke to our parents about this, as when I called I found out he had already mentioned it, and they were overjoyed. Yesterday I got a series of vitriolic messages from Rebecca, accusing me of trying to steal and adopt her daughter. She accused me and our whole family of using money to manipulate her daughter into hating her. She called me every name under the sun and said that I was trying to push her out of being a mother to Sophie. None of this made any sense to me. I love Sophie dearly, but I'd never try to be her mother, and this idea was Sophie and Louisa's. I was very hurt by the things she implied about me and my family and didn't even reply to her, but I did forward the messages to Charlie. I didn't think I had any part to play in Rebecca's outburst, but I spoke to my husband about this and he said he sees how Rebecca could be upset, because when Sophie is around, it's obvious how much she looks up to me and wishes she had what Louisa does. He also said that while he loves that my family wants the best for all of us, he could see how it could feel a bit oppressive if you couldn't meet the standard. My husband never says things like this, so since that conversation, I've been wondering, am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm getting a lot of questions about the point of contact thing, so I thought I would clarify. Because the school is in the country I live in, and not where Charlie and Rebecca live, I offered to be the emergency contact in case Sophie was ill or needed picking up from school immediately, etc. Also, in case she wanted to come home with Louisa at weekends and not be at school, since she won't be able to fly home every weekend. I said it to ease their minds that at least she would have someone in the vicinity at short notice. Not that I would be responsible for her academic progress or anything like that. Edit 2. Middle class. I really didn't think it was going to be as big as it is. But in the UK, or at least where I'm from in the UK, everyone is middle class, unless you belong to the upper social echelons, which you can only enter by birth or by marriage. If you're not nobility, you're middle class. Some people say upper middle class, which perhaps I should have, but it seemed like a pointless distinction. I'm not trying to display that we had a privileged upbringing. It's just in my experience, upper class is not purely about money. You're not the a-hole. A simple, no thank you. We want our middle school-aged daughter to attend school in our own country so we can still see her every day, would have been a sufficient answer. But there's probably something much deeper here than this offer for Rebecca to react so angrily. Not the a-hole. You made an extremely kind offer. Your brother should have consulted his wife in the matter, though. Your brother not communicating with his wife is not your fault. OP, you are not the a-hole. You weren't to know the reaction from your brother's wife. It was perfectly reasonable to make the offer to your sibling and then allow him and his spouse to make a decision. Her reaction is unhinged. All she had to say was, no thank you, if she was uncomfortable with the idea. You made a generous offer for the benefit of your niece and should not in any way feel bad about that. If the girl's mother cannot see the advantages that a private education could bring her daughter, then she is short-sighted and selfish. You're under no obligation, but I would let your brother know the offer remains on the table if she gets her head out of her butt. I, 36 female, have a daughter, Sarah, 10 female, with my husband, 37 male. My husband has a sister, Clara. Clara's father, not my husband's father, is a well-off guy, and Clara married into more money than most people will ever see. She has also taken a particular liking to my daughter, because her daughter, Ellie, and mine are very close and the same age. She has spoiled Sarah with trips, took her to Disney with her family on summer holidays, etc., and extravagant gifts, a bunch of which I felt uncomfortable accepting, but I've adopted a when-in-Rome attitude to Clara. I'll be honest, seeing Sarah look up to Clara as much as she does has hurt over the years. When she was younger, she'd frequently blurt out how she wished Clara was her mom and Ellie was her sister in that way kids do. But I've always put it to one side because Sarah was experiencing things she never would have without Clara's generosity. Next year, both girls will go to high school. In our country, it's from 11 plus. While Clara was visiting our country, she mentioned that Ellie would be attending a prestigious boarding school where they live. Clara said she never wanted to send Ellie to boarding school, but the primary school she goes to is basically a feeder school, and all her friends would be going, and Ellie begged to go, as they have amazing facilities and opportunities. We looked at the website, and it's truly a place for 1% of 1%, a place any parent would dream to educate their child. We said we were really hoping Sarah would get into the grammar school, but if not, she would have to go to the local school near us. My in-laws chimed in, and before I knew it, Clara said we should tour where they're going to be sending Ellie. She would happily pay for the tuition, and as they live close by, Ellie would be coming home as many weekends as she wanted, and Sarah could too. My husband was overwhelmed by the generosity and ecstatic at the idea of Sarah having such a start in life. But I just wanted to cry at the thought of my daughter going abroad to school, only to be essentially adopted by Clara. We said we'd think about it, but as soon as we got in the car, my husband mentioned it to Sarah, and it's all she can talk about now. She and Ellie are already excited about the prospect. I told my husband about my concerns, and he accused me of being jealous of Clara and even of Sarah, saying what kind of mother would stop her child taking an opportunity that will likely set her up for life, just because she doesn't want her to get too attached to other family members. I just think I didn't have a child just to send her away, and I don't think I'm wrong in thinking there's things I could give her as a mother that Clara can't, besides an expensive education. I think Sarah will be devastated if I say no, but this isn't what I want for my family. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but your husband is definitely the a-hole for mentioning it to Sarah before discussing it with you. You sound like you are more focused on your own jealousy of your sister-in-law than you are on your daughter. Yes, the a-hole. You would be the a-hole if you made the decision based on what you want. As a parent, it's your job to look at this situation and consider what's right for your daughter. Whether that means going or staying, I can't say, Because the only things you have really talked about is how you feel. You need to sit down, research the options, make an honest list of the pros and cons, and then decide what's in her best interest. Not the a-hole, but you need to stop blaming your sister-in-law and stop being jealous of her riches. It was your husband who told your daughter about it without consulting you. That is the problem. Your husband. My daughter Izzy will be having her school prom in the summer. She really wanted to get her dress early. We made a deal with her that if she gets decent exam results after her previous year, we will buy her the dress of her choice, whatever the cost. She has always been a bright kid, so it wasn't surprising that her results were excellent. She topped the year in every subject, bar 2, and even those her grades were decent. She chose a dress that was very expensive, but my wife and I kept our agreement and bought it for her. She has her heart set on being prom queen. It was also Izzy's birthday last weekend, and she wanted to have a house party for her 16th, which we didn't have a problem with, and she convinced us to leave the house while she had it. Wife and I stayed at in-laws, who don't live too far away. I got a call around 4 a.m. It was the police, and they had turned up to the house due to the noise. We rushed over there. Izzy was extremely drunk and was throwing up. Apparently, she had invited many more people than she had claimed, though most had fled when police arrived. There was alcohol and D all around the house. Our bedroom was ruined. It was clear that kids had attempted to use it for their own fun. We were also told the next morning that drunk Izzy had sworn at the elderly neighbors while drunk after they told her to keep the noise down. Thankfully, nothing valuable was taken, but windows were broken, as was a door lock, and someone had tried to break into the garden shed. Once she had woken up and sobered up, Izzy showed no regrets whatsoever. In fact, she found the whole thing hilarious. There was damage done to the house, and we asked her to refund some of it from the substantial amount we gave her in pocket money. She swore at us and laughed in our faces. In response, I said okay, but sold her prom dress online. It actually cost even more than the amount of damage done to the house, which was no small amount of money. The dress was gone today, and when Izzy found out, she was very upset, sobbing and screaming and calling us bad parents and saying she hates us. All the usual teen stuff. She packed a bag and went to stay with her friend's parents. Friend's mom called and said how it was awful of us to do that to punish her, and that we were completely unfair to go back on the deal. Sorry, but her party caused a lot of damage to our home, and she had no remorse and refused to help repay the damages. I don't think we did anything wrong in using that money for a better cause. You let a 16-year-old have an unsupervised party, never checked in during the event, and the only question you have is if you are the a-hole for selling the prom dress? No. You are not wrong for imposing consequences for her bad choices, but I won't go as far as saying not the a-hole, because you also aren't taking any responsibility for your lack of parenting that allowed it to happen so easily. Yes, the a-hole. So, this is a tough one, and I'm sure I'm going to be hated for my judgment, but I'm going to say everyone sucks here. The dress had nothing to do with the party. Sure, it helped you pay for the damages, but it was a reward for good grades, which she made. You said yourself that she gets plenty of pocket money, so you could have grounded her and taken away all of the pocket money until the damages were paid off, which I'm guessing would have not been very long. If it cost less than the prom dress, I'm not sure how expensive the dress was, or the damages, and it sucks that she did this, but also you are the parents here. You made the choice to not stay home for a teenager party. Did you set down rules ahead of time? Did you let her know that if things got out of hand, there would be consequences? If not, then that's on you. I'm sorry your house suffered, but you retaliated in a manner that was confusing and childish, even to a teenager. Of course she is upset. Not the a-hole. This is a straightforward one. I don't know why you even let her go stay at a friend's house, particularly one whose mother clearly doesn't get it. For my senior prom, I bought a gorgeous teal ball gown, on sale for 1/3 of its original price, and between my mom and I, jeweled it up, added lace, the works. The total cost I spent on the dress and its alterations almost met the dress's original price. I love that dress and the memories of picking out jewels and other items with my mom and working on it together. Since my senior prom, I have only ever worn the dress 2 more times for major events. With 2020 prom season around the corner, more and more dresses are popping up at department stores, and some of the ones I've seen are really pretty. A few days ago, my aunt called me and asked if my cousin could borrow the dress for prom in late April, and I said no, I'm sorry. This didn't fly with my aunt, who immediately said I graduated high school over half a decade ago, edit, almost 7 years ago, and have to let her borrow it. I explained to her the sentimental value of the dress, then pointed out that my cousin is almost a foot shorter than me and roughly 4 sizes smaller, and thus alterations would need to be made. If alterations of any sort are made to fit my cousin, it's no longer borrowing in my opinion. At that point, I might as well give it to her. I want to be able to wear it again if another big event happens, and the possibility to take a dress out when taken in is 0 because of your size difference. Anyway, this leads her to calling my mom to have her convince me to let my cousin borrow the dress, which my mom also said no, because my uncle makes good money and they should be able to get my cousin a really nice, unique dress if she so desires. Then my aunt offered to buy it for under $80, and my mom laughed before hanging up on her. Now there's divide among other family members, and after some of them made passive-aggressive Facebook posts or straight-up call-out posts, I blocked most of them. My high school prom dress isn't even in the state I currently live in, and is in a climate-controlled storage unit owned by my dad and stepmom. Before anyone asks, my cousin is not involved. By her choice, I'm not sure. She won't respond to any messages I send her on a few social medias we both have, and any comments I make on a new post are deleted. Am I the a-hole? Edit. To the people asking, I wore the dress to 2 military balls I was invited to. I didn't feel the need to buy new dresses when I have one that fits both occasions. Not the a-hole. Your aunt was looking for a cheap deal at your expense, and when she didn't get what she wanted, incited a crusade on social media. Your property is your property, and under no circumstances, family or not, should you have to lend it out if you don't want to. And that's not even including that the dress would be rendered unusable to you in doing so. Not the a-hole. It's none of your aunt's or anyone else in your family's business why you chose not to lend out something that belongs to you, much less something you actually put your own money and effort into. The dress is yours. You wear it. It's yours to decide what to do with. Even if you'd worn it once and decided to keep it for dust rags or hamster bedding, it's still yours. You have no obligation to ruin something you intend to continue using for the convenience of someone else. Not the a-hole. You are under no obligation to lend out items to anyone at any time. It doesn't even matter the size difference. If you said no, the answer is no.